I consider myself quite good at making bread. I'm not an expert and I certainly don't get paid for it, but nonetheless, I believe that I can knock out a pretty acceptable loaf. When I make bread, I use Sainsburys' own brand strong white bread flour. I use this flour because it's the cheapest one in the supermarket. As it's cheap, I may find that I have to work a little harder, but I've always found the end result to be perfectly satisfactory. Other people who also like to make bread prefer to use other, more expensive bread flour, like Allinson. I have no issue with people using this bread flour, and I don't begrudge them at all for choosing the more expensive option. If they can afford it, who am I to stand in their way? However, these people sometimes say that because I use Sainsbury's own brand strong white bread flour, and they use a more expensive strong white bread flour, that their bread is better than mine, and I couldn't possibly create a good loaf of bread using the cheaper strong white bread flour. This is an interesting argument. Does having better flour make you better at making bread? Of course not. Having more expensive strong white bread flour might make the process of making bread a little easier, but ultimately the result comes down to how skilled you are as a baker, not what flour you use. If you are simply no good at making bread, your end result will be a disappointment even if you use the most expensive bread flour there is. You do start to wonder whether the people who claim that the only way to make bread is by using expensive bread flour are only saying that because they want to justify having spent so much money on flour, knowing that there are people out there making bread just as good as theirs with flour that cost half the price. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what bread flour you use. It all boils down to your skill as a baker. Don't be put off by people telling you that you have to spend lots of money to make bread. Just get out there and bake.